Namaste. Today we're going to discuss Jupiter, the generous guru, and what Jupiter means in Vedic astrology. You'll learn what Jupiter does in each of the 12 houses. You'll also learn what a strong Jupiter placement looks like, and what a weak or afflicted Jupiter looks like too. So stick with me, because if you have ever wondered why you suddenly started expanding after a long, rough period, sometimes in our lives, when we are going through a long, rough period, and suddenly, without you doing much, starts to change. It's like a breath of fresh air. Doors that were shut for years just opened on their own. Or why your confidence suddenly felt different, a feeling of expansion, that just came from nowhere. We're going to find out why through Vedic astrology. You'll also learn about the Jupiter Mahadesha, the 16-year period this planet rules in your life. And I'm going to walk you through my own Jupiter Mahadesha, my own experience, because I think it explains this planet better, because it's my personal experience. Before we get into what Jupiter means, I want you to actually understand the planet itself for a second. Because the science on this thing is genuinely wild. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. It has more mass than every other planet combined, multiplied by 2.5 times. You could fit about 1,300 Earths inside Jupiter. And despite being that huge and massive, it spins faster than any other planet that we know of. A full day on Jupiter, one complete rotation, takes under 10 hours. Something that big, moving that fast, which is part of why its storms are so violent. The Great Red Spot, that famous storm, on its surface is a hurricane. A hurricane that has been raging continuously for at least a few hundred years. And it's wide enough to swallow the entire planet Earth inside, with room to spare. Huge. Jupiter also doesn't have a solid surface on it. It's almost entirely gas and liquid, which means if you tried to land on Jupiter, there would be nothing underneath you to land on. And its magnetic field is roughly 20,000 times stronger than Earth. And a very interesting thing about Jupiter is that it radiates more heat out into space than it actually receives from the sun. It's generating its own energy from deep inside itself. Now, hold on to that thought in your mind for a second, because none of it is a coincidence when you look at what this planet represents. in Vedic astrology. In Western astrology, Jupiter is known as the planet of luck, good fortune, expansion, the big lucky break. And that's not wrong, exactly. But I think it's incomplete. In the Vedic system, Jupiter is called Guru, the teacher. And it represents something much deeper than just luck. It represents wisdom. It represents dharma, which means the right action and the right path for you. Jupiter is the part of a person that can tell the difference between what they want in the moment and what is actually right for them in the long run. The Sanskrit name carries this meaning. We call Jupiter Brahaspati. Brahaspati is the guru of the Devas, the teacher of the gods themselves. And he was born into the lineage of the sage Angiras, a family whose entire purpose was passing sacred knowledge from one generation to the next. There's a story about him that I think it's worth knowing because it tells you exactly what this planet's character actually is. Brahaspati's wife, Tara, was once taken by Chandra, the moon, and the conflict over her nearly caused a war across the heavens. When Tara finally returned to Brahaspati, she was pregnant, and the child wasn't his. It wasn't Jupiter's. Instead of rejecting the child, Brahaspati raised him as his own. He named him Buddha, who became Mercury, the planet, the intellect. Jupiter raised Mercury. It's like wisdom raised intellect. Now, why would Jupiter do that? Because it was the right thing to do. Because Jupiter represents Dharma. That's the Jupiter story. Growth and generosity offered even when it isn't owed. So what does Jupiter actually govern in your birth chart? Jupiter governs higher knowledge, meaning not just information that you can speak, but wisdom that actually changes the way you live, the transformation. It governs your dharma, your sense of purpose, and the right action. It governs your relationship to teachers and your own capacity to be taught by someone or something outside yourself. It governs children and what you choose to pass down to the next generation, the legacy. And it governs expansion in general, which includes wealth, but specifically wealth that tends to come through growth, through generosity, through opportunity, rather than just pure hard work. Jupiter's natural home in the chart is the ninth house, which is a house of higher learning, house of long journeys, house of faith, and the house of father. Now, let's go through the houses one at a time, because wherever Jupiter sits in your own chart is where you'll see its generosity and its expansion. If Jupiter is in your first house, it tends to shape your entire identity around optimism and growth. People often feel that optimism from you when they meet you. You may find yourself becoming a teacher or a guide to others simply by being who you are naturally, without even trying to take a role on that. If Jupiter is in your second house, wealth tends to come to you through wisdom, through what you know and how you speak, rather than through physical effort. Your family background often carries a strong morale or a spiritual foundation that shaped how you see money and value in general. If Jupiter is in your third house, it tends to give you courage. Courage that is rooted in strong principle. You often have a real gift of teaching or writing, especially when it comes to helping others, helping other people understand something from your own life experience. If Jupiter is in your fourth house, it tends to bless your home life. This means property. This means a sense of being rooted somewhere, belonging, or a mother that carried real wisdom. If Jupiter is in your fifth house, this is considered one of the strongest placement for children, placement for creative intelligence, and for what's called Purva Punya, which is the good karma you've already earned from before this lifetime. Purva Punya. And also, learning tends to come to you with real ease in this placement. If Jupiter is in your sixth house, your growth usually comes through serving others, service to others, or through overcoming something difficult in your life. Whether that's an illness, or ongoing conflict, or a debt that you had to work through to pay back. This placement often means you become wise because life gave you something real to struggle against. If Jupiter is in your seventh house, your partnerships tend to be built around shared values and mutual growth, rather than just attraction. You may find yourself drawn to a partner who is much older or wiser, or who ends up functioning like a teacher in your life in some way. If Jupiter is in your eighth house, this can be a complicated placement to live with. Growth here tends to come through crises, come through what's hidden, and through sudden transformation. But you know what? It also gives you real depth. If Jupiter is in your ninth house, it's sitting in its own natural home. And this is Jupiter at its strongest and the most comfortable. This placement often brings deep faith, a strong pull toward education, higher education, and a relationship with a father figure or a teacher that ends up shaping the entire direction of your life. People with Jupiter here often become the person that others naturally come to for guidance. If Jupiter is in your 10th house, your career tends to be built around teaching and guidance, or something connected to Dharma and the higher principles in general. And also, success in this placement usually comes with respect attached to it. And I'm not talking about just recognition or attention. It comes with genuine respect. If Jupiter is in your 11th house, this is considered one of the most fortunate placements in the entire chart. Gains in almost every sense of the word. Financial gains, social gains, spiritual gains. And it flows to you with less friction than they do for most people. Comes easy. If Jupiter is in your 12th house, your growth tends to happen privately and often far away from where you started off in life, maybe in a foreign country. This can show up as living in other countries than your country of birth, living in ashrams. This placement tends to turn inward toward liberation rather than outward toward achievement and recognition. Now let's talk about the difference between a strong Jupiter and a weak or afflicted Jupiter. It's important to know. Jupiter is exalted, strong, when it sits in Cancer. And it's considered debilitated or weak when it sits in Capricorn. A strong, well-placed Jupiter tends to produce a person who is naturally generous, someone whose presence genuinely puts other people at ease, someone who believes things are going to work out, and somehow they actually do. A weak or afflicted Jupiter is a different experience entirely. It doesn't mean a person is cut off from wisdom altogether. No. It means there's more friction on the way to receiving abundance. And you know what? This can look like overconfidence. Overconfidence that isn't backed up by any real substance underneath. It can look like excess, overeating food, excess in spending, or in promises that you make to people, to other people, and then never keep. It can also look like preaching or advising people that you haven't actually lived out yourself yet. Jupiter retrograde. It adds another layer to this. When Jupiter is retrograde in the chart, the wisdom tends to come from revisiting the past. Wisdom from old teachers or older version of yourself that you had already outgrown. And Jupiter combust. Yeah, this is a real thing. Jupiter combust, meaning the area of Jupiter that sits too close to the sun. And this can mean the ego temporarily outshines the wisdom. The knowing is still there. It just gets drowned for a while by everything else that's going on. But please understand, none of this is permanent. It's a phase and it goes away. It's something that is passing through. It's not permanent. Now let's talk about Jupiter Mahadasha. Jupiter's Mahadasha runs for 16 years. In the Vedic Vimshotri system, it's the second shortest major season after Mercury's 17 years. A well-placed Jupiter Dasha tends to be one of the most expansive periods a person can move through in their entire life. You'll often see growth in wealth, growth in family, growth in reputation, and in genuine spiritual understanding, all coming to you at the same time. Doors that have been closed for years can simply open, sometimes without much explanation why it's happening. An afflicted Jupiter Dasha can bring the other side of that same expansion. And this can look like false confidence or being drawn to teachers and gurus who ultimately turn out to be nothing like what they originally claimed to be. If you had experiences in a cult or with a fake guru, this could be because of an afflicted Jupiter. Could be. I want to walk you through my own Jupiter Mahadasha because I think until you experience these Mahadashas playing out in your own life, it's just information. My Jupiter Mahadasha ran from April of 1994 to March of 2010. I was 25 years old when it began, and 41 years old when it finally ended. At 27 years old, I got married. And that happened during a difficult Jupiter-Saturn Antardasha. Not a good time. And of course, that marriage sadly didn't survive. I was alone in New York at that time, with no relatives or friends nearby, and there were people actively working against me during that period, which is very common. Then Jupiter's expansive energy really took hold, the way it tends to do once it gets going. I fought hard. I built a business that eventually grew into a multi-million-dollar in revenue expansion out of nowhere. I met Martha. Talk about expansion. By the time I was 39, I had 4 children, 4 kids. I had a big house, the cars, expansion. And the freedom to travel anywhere on impulse, whenever I wanted to. Expansion. But looking back at my mid-30s, honestly, it's a little cringe to admit. There were real pride in what I had built, and honestly, some arrogance too. Jupiter again. There was this feeling underneath everything that it would just keep going on forever. That is Jupiter Mahadasha doing exactly what Jupiter does. It expands. It gives generously. And at the same time, it quietly inflates your ego until you start to forget that the abundance was actually a gift and not something that you achieved or I achieved on my own. The final Antardasha of that period was Jupiter Rahu, which ran from December of 2007 to April of 2010. And that's when the ground started shifting underneath everything. Rahu disrupted the structures that Jupiter had spent all those years building. And then Saturn took over. Big Mahadasha until April 2010 and finished the restructuring that Rahu had already started. That's really the thing about Jupiter, the planet who is the guru. It doesn't just teach through scripture or through some wise old figure. It teaches through 16 years of your own actual life. If you're paying attention to notice it happening to you, it teaches you through what it gives you. And it also teaches you through what it lets you believe about yourself. Right up until the moment, it doesn't let you believe that anymore. Wherever Jupiter sits in your own chart is where your growth is genuinely meant to happen in this lifetime. And that same placement is often exactly where your blind spot lives too. If you let that growth convince you that that growth was all because of your own effort, The lesson here from Jupiter, the guru he is, that is a gift. That was a gift, not your doing. Thanks for watching. Namaste.